Okay.
Welcome everyone to my first ever movie review on my magical gaming channel. I know everyone's used to me streaming some games and all that. I know I've been gone for a minute, but I'm back, hopefully, trying to get everything organized. I've got some special guests here with me. Of course, right hand person, the mad scientist, Mad Squirrel's here.
Hello.
Also, we have another special guest here. I'm gonna let him introduce himself to the
Well, thanks
masses.
for having me. Hey, this is Hail Sagan. Here
There
to
we go.
here to talk a little bit of movie magic
Yeah,
and
we're gonna get on
Rich
some. Yeah,
Fast
talk
Forward.
about some Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat. First, okay. First, I'm not gonna bash it. So, but I'll say this:
Take the floor. Take the
there
floor.
was, there was, there was, there was parts in there I liked. Okay. Now I know everybody like me, who grew up playing Mortal Kombat, who was a 80s baby like myself, and you know, and Mortal Kombat Cat, we all played it as kids. And then when the first movie came out, oh man, that I still love the first movie. I'm not going to talk about Annihilation because that BS, that was just, I
Let's not.
yeah, Annihilation, like, I just, and so, when this was when we found out that they were going to make another Mortal Kombat, because people have been clamoring for a new Mortal Kombat movie because it's been years.
Right.
The first Mortal Kombat came out. The first Mortal Kombat movie came out in 1995. So, since then, everybody's been clamoring for another Mortal Kombat movie. When are we going to see another one? And then finally, and I think what kind of jump started it. I don't know if you guys ever seen that little one shot movie they did. Some director was trying to promote to get another movie started, but it was
It
called
was such a tease, man. It
yeah.
was
It,
such a
it
tease.
had
I know what
it
you're
had
talking about.
yeah, Michael Jai White. It was kind of more like a
Yes.
realistic, kind of version of Mortal Kombat,
Correct.
and he was like a detective or a sergeant or whatever at a police station, and Scorpion, the guy who's Scorpion, was locked up or whatever, but
Right.
they need his help to go and kill Shang Tsung and kill all the other combatants. And they told him, what motivated him to compete was the fact that Sub Zero was alive, even though he thought
Right.
he killed him.
Right.
Right.
Sub Zero was still alive. So that was, it was a different take on Mortal Kombat.
Yep.
They showed like a reptile was this deformed person who was born,
Right.
deformed, and the Baraka was actually, oh excuse me, was actually a failed surgeon who kind of
Right.
went crazy and all that. So
Right.
like it was different takes on the popular characters in Mortal Kombat, and I liked it. It was pretty. It was like a 7.5 minute, a little short
I
that they
I'll
did.
be honest. I'm with you. I liked it.
Hmm.
I thought, wow, this is a new direction,
Yeah,
and it looked darker. It
yeah,
looked like it
darker,
was something
gritty.
that was, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be honest. That's what I was kind of expecting a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah, they after that they did have that little mini series. I think it was called Mortal Kombat Legacy or something like that.
Right.
They had that little mini series that came out, which was cool. And so after that, I'm like, man, they gotta release a movie. And then when it was announced, I'm like, yes, everybody was excited, everybody was happy, and of course, it was supposed to come out last year, but due to COVID and everything, a lot just like this movie, a lot of other movies got pushed until this year. And then what Warner Brothers did with HBO Max is all their movies for this year they're putting out, they're all releasing it on HBO Max and also in the theaters. So they'll put it on HBO Max for a month, and then it'll be back to strictly in the theater.
Yeah.
So that for a lot of people was actually pretty cool, especially people who wasn't sure about going to the theater yet or whatever. They know that if it was a movie, like before Mortal Kombat, Godzilla versus Kong came out, so that was available. And then before that, the Snyder cut of
Justice League.
Justice League,
Yeah.
and then Wonder Woman came out. So it gave people that option to say, hey, we're going to watch this at home, or this particular movie, I want to go see this in the theater. So it gave you that option, but it's still a cool little thing for this year. I know next year they're going to go back to strictly theaters,
Good luck to them.
but yeah,
Good
but
luck
this
Yep.
to them.
year, yeah, they decided to say, hey, we're going to go ahead and release it on HBO Max at the same time. So getting to Mortal Kombat, the 2021 version, I'm gonna be honest. I was disappointed in it. And the reason why they brought in, to me personally, they brought in an unnecessary character that they really didn't need to bring in.
Who, Cole?
Yeah,
Ah,
Cole Young.
here we go.
Amen.
They really didn't need to. And me and my boy Marcus was talking about this before it came out. He was like, man, I hope they don't sit there and make this about some person nobody's going to care about, some new character.
And here
And that's
we are.
exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And see, and the thing about it, like when they were promoting it, they were talking about it was going to be mainly focused on Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, everybody loves those two characters. Those are like the two main characters that people
Yeah,
are
they
fans
pretty much
of.
have defined Mortal Kombat.
Exactly.
Oh,
And so when I sat here and watched it early Friday morning, and it started off great. I'm like, okay, when he's showing, what went down between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. I'm like, okay, cool. And then after that, it was just kind of like all over the place after that. And what kind of, like, I thought they were gonna at least explain how Scorpion became Scorpion. You know,
Right.
after he got killed, after Sub-Zero killed him, I at least thought they were gonna show him in the Nether Realm or Hell, whatever, what made him become Scorpion. How and if anybody watched the animated movie that just came out a year ago or whatever, Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge, they did a good job on that animated movie. And basically it kind of started off the same way. Scorpion was with his son, and they were headed back to the village for dinner. Sub-Zero and his clan came and wiped out everybody in the village. And then Sub-Zero ended up killing his wife, and then he killed his son, and then he killed Scorpion. And then after Scorpion was killed, Scorpion went down to hell, and then he teamed up with Quan Chi, and Quan Chi made a deal with him for him to get his vengeance as long as he in the tournament in Mortal Kombat, as long as he helped him bring back his master Ermac. And I know, if
Yeah.
people who are big time fans know who they are, or some people may not know, but yeah,
Right.
brush up on some of your Mortal Kombat characters if you don't know who certain characters are. But that was a deal they made, was that he was going to help Quan Chi was going to help him. And so at least thought they were going to kind of go into that and show, that part of him becoming Scorpion, what made him become Scorpion or whatever. And, so that started off okay. And then it kind of went into, bringing out Cole Young, this new character. And he was this kind of failed MMA fighter and blah, 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 blah. And so, what killed me about this was that, and if you remember Mortal Kombat Annihilation, they all had those little dragon markers on them or whatever. And
Right.
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 anybody,
The
yeah,
marking.
any of the character, like the bad guys that died, the little dragon would come out or whatever. And
Mhm.
it was like, man, come on. Like, I sat here and I'm like, no, don't do this to me. It felt rushed,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it
Without
felt
a doubt.
like they're trying to assemble together like they were the Avengers. I'm like, what the heck? Like, and they were all trying to gain their powers. And I'm like, the heck is this? Like, it just,
I think
You hit it
I-
right on the head.
yeah, it was just so all over the place. And it felt so rushed. And if you go back to the first Mortal Kombat movie, I just loved how they did that. In the first Mortal Kombat movie, Liu Kang was like the main character,
Right.
and he he went to the tournament and ended up teaming up with you seen the original squad, him, Sonya Blade, Johnny Cage,
Liu
and
Kang,
of
the
course Liu
only
Kang.
Asian in that Mortal Kombat first film. Everybody else is pretty much, I don't
Yeah,
know.
all over the place. Yeah. So, but just the way they did it, it was just, I loved how they did it. Like in this movie, like for example, this new character was able to defeat Goro. I'm like, what the heck? Like Goro's like 500 years old. And that's, if
Right.
anything, you would face Goro like in a video game. You would face Goro before you face Shang Tsung, and then
Right.
Right.
you would face Shao Kahn. That's like the order of things. Like Goro should have been like one of the last guys you faced or whatever, or at least for him to take an L like that from some unknown character. And they were like waiting to get their quirks. I don't know if you guys watched My Hero Academia, but that was kind of like, they called it, your quirk or whatever, getting your powers.
Right.
Right.
And it was just like, it was like we got to Raiden had to motivate them somehow to get their powers. It was just like Kano. All of a sudden, he was able to shoot lasers out of his eye. Like, what happened
Yeah.
to the metal
Because
Yeah.
plate
apparently
in his?
a rage,
Yeah,
the rage of the dog was out
The
of control.
Arcana.
yeah. And then Reptile, I'm like, you can't just beat Reptile. Like, come on, man. Like, see, this is what I liked about the first one. Reptile was kind of like a spy. He was spying on for Shang Tsung.
Yeah.
And then, for the most of the movie, he was in his reptilian form until towards the end when Liu Kang, when they went to Outer World or whatever, and Liu Kang grabbed him and threw him into that statue, and then he formed into the ninja version of Reptile and booted Liu Kang's ass through that thick ass wall and beat the hell out of him for a good minute before Liu Kang was able to finish him. Like that part I loved because I remember before one of my
Dude, that
friends
was
went to
one
go
of the
see.
best fight scenes
Oh
ever.
man, I told myself if I get booted through a wall like that, I'm not fighting nobody. I'm
Right.
done. Like you boot me through a wall like that, I'm done. Like, hey man, I'm taking this L. You got it. Hey, you do your thing. I'm not gonna fight you, man. Like, cause my friend went to go see it before, and I'm like, is Reptile in there? He was like, no, no, no. And he wanted me to find out for myself. And when I seen, I jumped up in it. I'm like, oh, it's Reptile. Oh man. So just the way like something like that, like Reptile got beat so easily in there. I'm like, it was just certain things like certain characters like you would not just have them get beat like that
Yeah.
so
Yep.
easily. And Melina, is it Melina or Marlene? I forgot. Melina,
Hmm.
um, she's supposed to be a clone of Katana,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And it's like, how are you going to have her in there without having Katana in there?
That's what I said. That's
Like
exactly what
it was just stuff like that. Like, what the heck, man? And it was like another thing was like,
Plus, they didn't save anything there. Like, at the very least,
no,
if you're going to have her, put her
yeah,
mask on. That was the whole draw
yeah,
to that
yeah.
character. It's like, oh crap! Like underneath that mask is a freaking
They just
monster.
went straight to like Mortal Kombat 3 characters and like, here you go. I'm like, what the
Yeah.
heck?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, supposedly it's supposed to be sequels and stuff like that. I'm like, man, I truly hope if they make a sequel that they just don't mess this thing up. Like it was just I
Hmm.
was just so frustrated with it. I'm just going to take a deep breath because I just was expecting so much more. And it was like, how like certain movies, they'll show the best parts in the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you go see the movie, you're like, oh man, this thing was garbage. Like, I honestly am glad I didn't go to a theater and waste money on watching it.
Wow.
Like, I'm glad that I actually was just able to sit here and watch it at home instead of watching it in a theater because I would have left out of there mad.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of like The Village. Like when I went to go see The
Oh.
Village in the theater, I was so heated. I'm like, man, give me my money back, man. Like the heck, M Night. I just.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think Hail Sagan. What was? I'll let him go next because he's in the same
mhm.
kind of camp that you're in. Um,
Oh, whew. All right, man. There's too much here. Okay.
Mhm.
that's why I'm making you
Yes,
go.
Rich. Okay, Rich. You and I are definitely the same camp because we
Mm-hmm.
did grow up, you know, being a huge fan of the games, especially for me. Like I always go back to the first three games,
Yeah.
um, and that really was kind of like the spine of the video game world when it
Mm-hmm.
came to Mortal Kombat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything after that, of course, was great, but it's still for me. It always goes back to the first three.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the movie when we were young, the original. And
Yeah.
yes, when you go back, of course, and you see some of the cheese factor in that
Mm-hmm.
movie, there's a lot of it. Of course
Oh, of
there is.
course.
Could they have
Yeah.
done better in casting? Heck yeah, they could have done better at casting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and obviously, don't even go into like Goro and the puppeteering and all that stuff because it's cringe, man. It's
Yeah.
cringe. All
Yeah.
right. But we grew up in that same, being a fan of the same thing there.
Yeah.
So this movie comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and you and I think I was telling and Squirrel this earlier. Our problem was that you and we probably had high expectations. I went in having
Mm-hmm.
very high expectations of this movie, and I was
Exactly.
excited.
Right.
Now, Squirrel, she did not.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, I wish I did not. Like, if I would have gone in with lower expectations, I would have
Mm-hmm.
been, okay, all right, probably not
Yeah.
bad. But because of where we came from and what we've already seen, I
Mm-hmm.
had them. So that being said,
Mm-hmm.
right on the right, you hit it right on the head with they rushed it. Like it was all over the place. They started out the movie very well,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Very well. Like, okay, guys, this is about Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Everything is going to surround the world of Scorpion and Sub-Zero and their, and their hatred, right? And this
Yeah.
is how it's going to be. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like you said, right, it just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's a new character.
Mm-hmm.
There's um, just a lot of let's just hurry up and get these characters completely introduced and let's just show them to you because we got to just get to it.
Yeah.
There's no build up after that to anything, right? In the
Yeah.
first Mortal Kombat, when we saw that, they
Mm-hmm.
would introduce you, but it was like a slow introduction. And they
Mm-hmm.
actually did explain, some things like Scorpion and Sub Zero, the way that they were slaves of Shang Tsung
Mm-hmm.
in that first one, like
Yep.
even though they were mortal enemies.
Yeah.
Amazing. Like, hey, that's pretty cool, right? And then
Yeah.
you just, progressively throughout the movie, they're going to sprinkle in more characters.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see that here.
No.
You didn't see that here.
Yeah,
And that,
I'm sorry, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
no, 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 no. And I was just going to say, like, I just, there's something to the art of trying to build a story and
Mm-hmm.
characters. They didn't focus on that here at all. I think they just wanted to create this movie to appease
Mm-hmm.
fans of the games and just give them the low hanging fruit, so to speak, right? Like the
Yeah.
let's just go out there, let's get the action going, let's just let's start getting the gore going. Let's just give the fans pretty much what they think they came to see. And it was just messy, I think, in the way that they did that.
Yeah.
Um,
I agree. I totally agree. And I think, you know, if you're gonna make a movie not just for fans but for non-fans, um, and yeah, they threw a whole bunch of let's throw some fatalities in there, let's get a push for a hard R for the gore and all that. That's all
right.
fine and well, but you still got to have some background on some of these characters. You doing
You do.
characters that someone watches, they may not even know who they are. Like, who the hell is this? Like, if they're not a hardcore Mortal Kombat fan and they don't really know the characters like that, you're just throwing in characters that a lot of people may not know if they're not a big fan.
Right.
So and the thing, and like you said, of course, we're talking about, and it's sad that a movie that was made 25, 26 years ago is still, I can still enjoy that more than I did this one. Now,
Hmm.
I'll get, like I said, the beginning was cool, and Scorpion and Sub Zero fighting at the end was cool, but
Right.
between that, it was just like it's all over the place. And, I think what
Would
it
you call
was
that
was,
a shit sandwich? because hey, you got the shit in the middle, but hey,
Yeah,
you at least had a decent, top and bottom.
yeah.
You
It,
bookended
it,
very well.
Yeah, there was really no need to introduce. I don't know why, and I don't know how much the creators' involvement was. Because I heard somewhere, and I don't know if this is true or not, that like Ed Boon, one of the
Yeah,
creators of Mortal Kombat, like
Yeah.
he didn't really have a say so in it, and like or so. I don't know if that's true or not, but I know a lot of times these studios, man, they'll butt in and just say, hey, we want it like this or whatever, and you got to deal with it that way. Or if the creators and the directors butt heads,
right.
and the creators like, you know what, I don't want to be a part of this movie or whatever. Y'all do y'all thing, and it happens too many times. Like,
Yeah, it
for
does.
example, prime example is how successful Marvel is, Disney and Marvel, that marriage with the movies compared to Warner Brother and DC. Like that whole like DC's universe is just so messed up right now. People are pissed. They went ahead, they released the Snyderverse, their Snyder cut of Justice League.
Right.
Fans loved it, so they're like, okay, let's go ahead and do this. But we want more. We want Zack Snyder to finish out the Justice League movies. They're like, oh no. They came out with a statement. No, no, there's not going to be no more Snyderverse. We're just doing this so he could finish his vision on the original Justice League movie and blah 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 blah. And they're talking about how toxic the fans are and this and that. And I'm like, well, if you didn't mess up the whole DC universe, they wouldn't be mad.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
they originally had a plan, then just went all over the place with it, and they're trying to copy Marvel's formula, how Marvel Cinematic Universe is, and how successful Marvel was with their how they set up their like the way Marvel set up their movies and everything was just was almost perfect.
Right.
The way they set them up was almost perfect, and so DC Warner Brothers just came in and just said, "Hey, we're going to do it this way," and now they're all in limbo over there, and they don't know what they're doing. I know, like they're getting ready to make a Flash movie. They started filming the Flash movie, and I think it's going to be. I don't know if you guys watched the animated movie, but supposedly it's supposed to be based off the Flashpoint paradox,
Right.
that animated movie. And if people don't know, a quick story: Flash, he ran so fast he ended up altering time or going into a different timeline
Right.
where Bruce Wayne was killed as a kid. His dad was Batman. His mom was Joker. Aquaman and Wonder Woman were messing around, in a relationship, and while he was still married, and Wonder Woman was jealous, she cut off his wife's head. Blah 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 blah. So there was a lot of crazy stuff going on in that, but yeah, people have HBO Max, tune in, watch Flashpoint Paradox. It's all on there. So anyway, when you get these studios that butt in and make these decisions or not have like if I'm gonna make a movie based off a video game or a novel or an animated series, whatever, I want the source material. I want to bring the creators along because
Yeah.
I want their input on how I'm making it. Of course, I'm the director. I have a vision or whatever, but I want these guys right next to me to make sure, hey, is this cool? Or you guys, is there anything I could change with this? Or just, I want to get their
right,
input on it. I'm not going to just mess up somebody's work because, oh, well, I'm the director. I want to do it my way, or the studio. You're like, no, man.
right, right.
Too many times that happens where there's beef between the director and the creator of whatever, or the studio and the creator, whatever. That's why the dudes from Avatar, The Last Airbender, they left the project from Netflix. They
Right.
left that because Netflix all of a sudden wanted to do something else. When they first signed them on board, they told them, hey, this is your baby. We want you to do it the way you want. And then all of a sudden, Netflix started making changes. So the creators of The Last Airbender was like, you know what, we're going to go ahead and get off of this. And then they just recently signed a deal with Nickelodeon to start doing original content and all that with them. So that's cool. They were able to bounce back. But stuff like that happens too many times. So I kind of wonder if um, Ed Boon, and I forgot the other guy's name, if they had any
Tobias.
involvement. Yeah, yeah. And a little side
Oh,
note,
Tobias.
I did not know this until my boy told me about this.
Hmm.
So the character Noob Saibot, I
Yeah,
did not
yeah.
know that is their name spelled back. I never paid attention. I'm like, wait a minute. I sat there
Yeah,
and he was like, yeah, that's their name spelled back. I'm like, it really is. I'm like,
right.
oh wow, I did not think about that at all these years.
Yep.
So I was sitting here in shock. But yeah, anyway, you have stuff too many times where studios butt in or directors butt in and mess up somebody's work. Like I just don't see
Hmm.
how you can do that. And then the movie ended up being garbage. You
Right.
know.
Oh yeah, yeah. It does happen too often.
Hmm.
And I think, yeah, I think in this one, they really were. That wasn't their focus, right? It wasn't about,
Hmm.
well, hey, let's really do this right because
Hmm.
there's so much that we can do. A lot of people love the original. Let's go
Hmm.
ahead and, you know, let's take the feedback as to what could have been done better. We now have better technology,
Hmm.
to create these characters. CGI
Yeah.
wise, we have better technology to help in that regard. Kind of fix that up. They could have just kind of done it, used that, as a at least a template,
Right.
and just
Hmm.
built up on it. And here's another thing that bothers me that I did not like, that it just drove me nuts about the movie. Like, one thing that's great about Mortal Kombat, Rich and Squirrel, you guys have played them. How many
Hmm.
times did you look forward to, dude, I want to see what backgrounds, what backdrops are,
You
come up
know,
in this one.
Exactly.
I
really,
want to see the colors.
really quick before
Hmm.
we jump into that part,
Yeah.
the Mortal Kombat co-creator breaks his silence on new movie. This was just yesterday released as far as
Oh,
news.
okay.
So this is from Boone, I believe. Yeah, it's from one of the co-creators. Um, the new car it says this is from comicbook.com. I'm talking about gaming. It says the new Mortal Kombat movie is out in theaters and HBO Max, and it already has a divisive Rotten Tomato score. Yeah, it's like around 55. Yes, 55. There we go. Um, Meanwhile, the audience score is a very impressive 88. In short, while the critics
Hmm.
aren't impressed, fans of the fighting game franchise are seemingly loving it. But what do the series creators John Tobias and Ed Boon think of the new movie? Well, Boon, who still works on the series as a creative director at NetherRealm Studios, hasn't said a word about the movie. He only acknowledged its existence for the first time yesterday. For some, his silence is pretty telling. Meanwhile, Tobias it says Tobias, who doesn't actively work on the series anymore, has talked about the movie a little bit in the past, but not a ton. In other words, while he hasn't been as silent as Boone, he is not out and about actively promoting it either. However, he did tweet about it today, though he didn't divulge any actual opinion about the reboot. In the tweet, this is the tweet here, Tobias notes that the crew and cast put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into the film. So he goes, a lot of liquids in the new MK film, literal blood, sweat, and tears from the cast and crew and all involved. Congrats. And he tagged everyone that was in the film. So that was from John Tobias. So
Hmm.
he hasn't really given his thoughts about the film, but yes, his silence has been golden. So that's an article there.
That should tell you right there.
Give it a year or less, and they're gonna come
Hmm.
out. They're gonna come out
Yeah.
saying what they really feel. They're gonna,
If they really loved it, they would have been said something about it. They would have been amped up.
right.
They
They'd
would have
be
been hyped
promoting it.
about it. Yeah. Like they would have posted like just checked out the movie. Oh man, I can't believe they did such a great. You would have heard something like to that
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah.
They would have been quiet on it and just been like, "Hey, congrats to the cast and crew," but they didn't say anything exactly about how they felt, and that tells you a lot. That tells you a lot without them saying much at all.
Right.
That should be enough right there.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's interesting, though. I'm glad you brought that up, though,
Sorry,
Squirrel. That's
I wanted to throw that in there because I
because
know
we
that
were
he had
curious.
said something.
Hmm.
I know that he had said something recent, but I couldn't remember, and I was like, I'm just gonna look it up, and it was there. So there you go. But
But then I also kind of let you know that they didn't have no involvement in the movie.
yeah,
In the movie,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
there was
Yeah, they
exactly.
didn't
only
have no involvement in it at all.
there was only like they have Easter eggs throughout the film, and
Yeah.
there was one when Jax had said to Cole during the first time they met,
Hmm.
because the man who took the belt from Eddie Tobias, and that was
Yeah.
referencing Eddie,
Hmm.
Ed
Yeah.
Boon and John Tobias, but that was it. Everything else is pretty much
Hmm.
video game Easter eggs, things like that. But it,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a whole nother world. And I mean, what's crazy is, right, okay, so I was looking at these dregs because I knew there was the thing about the arms with Jax.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, so in the game's original continuity, Jax
Mm-hmm.
voluntarily gets a bionic arm implants to enhance his strength. So by contrast, in the new timeline created by the events of Mortal Kombat in 2011, his arms are ripped off by a telekinetic Red Ninja Air Mac and later replaced
Mm-hmm.
with the cybernetic arms. So that's some of the canon there. But yeah. hmm
Hmm.
But you were
Yeah,
saying,
and that's kind of like what happened in Mortal Kombat 2, was that he was already getting his arms
Right,
changed, yeah, and
right,
they were kind of going along that route and Annihilation.
hmm
But there's in the games, like, there's been different versions of what happened to Jax and his arms, so that part really didn't bother me. Like,
right.
it was a cool little scene between him and Sub Zero,
I
and
loved it.
yeah, that
Yeah,
part was cool. But yeah, so that part didn't necessarily bother me as far as like what happened to his arms,
right, right.
because
Right.
it changes a little anyway. But yeah, this is this tells you exactly what we kind of know. It's like, if these if the creators were heavily involved in it, they would have been promoting the hell out of this movie
Right.
like
Absolutely.
crazy.
And
So,
and that's the part that's the irony of it. It's like I
mm,
had heard they weren't involved, but I was like, did something fucking change? I don't know. Did something change? I don't know.
yeah.
But what were you gonna say? I'm sorry I interrupted earlier, Hail Sagan. But like, what were
No,
you gonna
no,
say
that's all right. That's
about
all
the
right.
backgrounds? And because that's a good point too. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was one of those things that you would look forward to every time a new Mortal Kombat game came out. Is, man, what new settings are they going to have? What new locations? What new backdrops? All of that stuff was amazing, especially like,
Hmm.
when you got into 2 and 3, the colors, right? How awesome! Like when you would see the portal in the background, you would see the
Hmm.
monks, kind of floating on either side. Like, just the colors, the settings. That was one thing I loved. This movie had none of that. This movie was like just a drab, grayish looking, lack of color movie, and maybe that's where they were going. They were trying to go for that gritty, more atmospheric, uh, you know, feel to it, right? But
Yeah.
it made, to me, it did not help the movie at all. It made it weaker, because the one thing about the original Mortal Kombat film that they did get right is you did have that. You had amazing landscapes, you had amazing locations. Um,
Hmm.
and so that was never lost. Even Outworld looked the way that you would expect it to look, right? It looked
Exactly.
absolutely crazy, chaotic, this just wastelands. It looked great. Like, I thought they did a good job on that.
And this
What
is
did
in the
Outworld look like?
yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Mm.
No, you're referencing the first Mortal Kombat film.
The first film. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
comparison to this one. And yeah, I mean, those are valid points. I mean, I didn't care for the first Mortal Kombat film. I was just like, there's just a lack of Asians in this film. Um,
Hmm.
Personally, truthfully, I mean, I'm being honest. Um,
Yeah.
Which is a
you know,
fact. It's true.
I mean, that was the stuff that stuck out to me, and I was just like, okay. And I don't, you couldn't sell me on Christopher Lambert. What the hell? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Um, well, I'm not going to do it. I wasn't sold on him in that role at
Yeah.
all. And I was like, wrong casting, wrong casting. I mean, I liked, certain characters. The only Asian man in that film was good. Um, Looking like, Bruce Lee's son and shit. But, this one, I don't know. I was okay. I went in with very low to zero expectations. I was happy. I was kind of excited. Don't get me wrong. I was
Yeah.
excited. I did watch the 7 minute, you know, preview of it, and I was like, okay, I like this a lot. I do.
Hmm.
It reminded me of the martial art films from like the 1970s. It had that kind of drab grayness to it. The whole
Yeah.
film did. And at first, and
Hmm.
I'll be honest with you, I was telling this to Hail Sagan earlier, right? Like the scene where you go to, you're at Sonya and Jax's base, okay, which is like a
Hmm.
trailer. Um,
Hmm.
then you went to, Cole's, I guess, shack slash trailer. I kept thinking everybody lived in trailer parks at that point, and I was very confused about the set design. I would say that needs
Yeah.
work, um, but it was very gray and drab, and also outside of the smartphone thing, and this is one thing I noticed, is when they're in a hurry in a lot of these films, like when they try to modernize a series, they always rush to technology, right, to
Yep.
modernize everything. This film didn't do that. It didn't do that in that way, and I will give it kudos for that. because it didn't. The only thing we saw that was even remotely quote tech was a smartphone. That was it.
Hmm.
Everything else was pretty much like, okay, now we're going back into fantasy world because that's where we're living in mortals and shit. We got
Yeah.
demigods and gods running around, you know, taking their their hostages. But anyway, it had this very timeless feel to it, which is like meaning I couldn't if I were to sit here and say when do you think this film was made, I would have to
Hmm.
look at the vehicles, and that was only brief. Everything
Yeah.
else, there was no time. So it was like I
Hmm.
couldn't place the time sequence, but I think that played into the Mortal Kombat feel that there is no time. Time is not a thing. That is not what's relevant here. Because prophecy is
Hmm.
prophecy and Mortal Kombat is Mortal Kombat. And I'm like, okay, I can dig this because we didn't have like the stereotypical, oh, it's it's the 2020s, and we got this kid who knows technology better than his dad. We don't have any of that crap, the filler.
Yeah.
And I liked a lot of the action sequences in the beginning. I especially liked the beginning part with Sub-Zero when
Hmm.
Cole's at the restaurant with his family, his daughter's outside, and it starts to snow. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, oh,
Yeah.
and then he's
That
like,
part was cold.
that was badass. I loved it. I was like,
Hmm.
this is good. This is really good. And of course, expectations got lowered as we went on. But in the end, though, I found it entertaining. It did go way too fast.
Hmm.
The story was a little mashed up in areas where I was just like, okay. I liked, you know, I liked some of the characters. Like what was it, Kano?
Yeah. He
He,
was like the comedy relief, so he was funny in that movie. Yeah.
yeah, we talked.
Kano was the best character. What was my favorite
Yeah.
character?
And
Yeah.
I mean, in that I kind of liked it. I went in with zero expectations, though. I'm being honest. Like I went in where I was just like, all right, let's see how you're gonna let me down. And the
Hmm.
film didn't entirely let me down. See, I'm not an uber fan though. I wasn't obsessed with the games, and I sure as hell hated the
Hmm.
first movie. I got really turned off by it. So like this was
Hmm.
to me, I guess I enjoyed it in the sense of it kept my attention. It went by very quickly, and I was like, okay, so now we're gonna move on to the Cage timeline. Getting into the whole
Hmm.
like Cage saga. If we do, we'll see what the hell that looks like. But
Yeah.
it's still interesting. I would see the sequel. I would watch it. I don't rate it like badly. I mean, in comparison to most people, I think it's about average or just above average because I like the
Say,
fact
what
they.
would you say, like on an A to F schedule or A to F scale?
Oh, oh,
Because I
I
think
would
it's
have to go. I
interesting
would have
that
to
you
go to
bring
1 to
this.
10, because if we did a scale 1 to 10, I'd probably give it
let's do
like a
I was gonna say,
6.
or if you do like
Like,
A through F with the pluses and minuses in there too.
I,
So a six, I mean, would that be maybe like a C?
C minus, D plus. Yeah, around there, it'd be like a C minus. Like real talk, I'd probably give
wow.
it. Oh, and before I just realized this, and I apologize for mixing up my characters. Quan Chi's master is Shinnok.
There you go.
Ermac is the person you talked about. He's the blind ninja that use telepathy and
Yeah, yeah.
telekinesis and stuff.
Right.
So that's Ermac. Shinnok is Quan Chi's master. Okay, so anyway, back to the rating. Yeah, it'd be like a C minus, man. Like I really want to say D, but I'll give it a C minus,
That's
I'm
hoping
in the
that
D.
yeah.
they
I'm in the
they
D
may, yeah,
category
yeah,
too. I'm in the D.
yeah,
Honestly,
hoping leaving out a little bit of hope that they make up for it in a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I okay.
Get new writers, get the creators involved. Do something smart. Don't just say, "Oh, we got this."
Yep. There you go. That's exactly it.
yeah.
Because if they slack off in the sequel, none of this meant damn thing. This meant nothing. They're trying to set up the franchise. Keep the momentum going, but don't. I don't know. Lessons can be learned from this film. I'm glad to see so many Asian actors in it. It was really great.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
guy
Yeah.
who played Scorpion, uh, he's 60 years old,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
He
know,
is.
and he did a
Yeah.
fantastic job. I mean, it was
Hmm.
perfect. I mean, and that was the thing was like that 7 minutes, that sneak peek thing, like amazing.
Yeah.
Like I don't see him as being
The
60.
guy who played Scorpion, he actually has skills
Oh
with
yeah,
like the
yeah,
sword and stuff. He actually has some skills.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah, he's
Hiroyuki
like in his
Sanada is his
yeah,
name.
he's in his
yeah.
he's like 64 or something, ain't he?
60. Yep,
Oh, 60. Okay.
yep.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah, I
but
think the
he
last movie I seen him in, it was like a brief appearance, but he was in Avengers. He was in um Endgame.
mhm.
Oh, okay.
He, yeah, he was in Endgame, and he was one when Hawkeye became Ronin, and he was going around killing people. Like when he was in Japan, he
Oh,
was
okay.
like the dude he was fighting when they fell out the building and they both had swords. That was him that he fought in that brief moment before Scarlet Witch. I mean, not Scarlet Witch. Black Widow came up behind him.
Right.
But yeah, that was the same guy.
And he
You
was
guys would
Nice.
probably have to go back and
He
watch
got
that movie to
skills,
see what
man.
I'm talking
Yeah, no kidding.
about.
yeah, a
He's
cute.
got skills though, without a doubt. You could tell.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
was
oh yeah.
also in Wolverine. He was
Oh, that's right. He was the when they were doing when Wolverine went to Japan.
mhm.
Where he was that
I've
one
only seen
girl's
that movie one
Shinjen.
husband or
time.
whatever.
Shinjen.
Yeah,
Mm,
he was that one girl's husband in
Mhm.
there. I think
Yep.
I'm gonna have to
that
look at
one
that.
that
Watch that
girl
again.
that the girl that Wolverine was falling for.
Yeah.
That was her dude in there. Yeah, yep.
Oh, okay.
You're absolutely right.
So yeah, that's where he's from. But he has a lot of martial arts background. He's been in
Mm,
working for quite a long time. He's very well respected. There's a
mm-hmm,
lot of good casting in this film, and I think that just because it's not popular in our country, it's like
mm-hmm.
actors have to find their way. Foreign actors have a
Yeah,
harder time in our country maneuvering through it. I'm glad to see,
facts.
and I'm glad to see that these guys are here because they deserve that. They deserve a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of love. I'll tell you that. I liked the casting on this film way better. Christopher Lambert, suck it.
Like we don't need you here, Highlander.
Yeah.
Go somewhere.
Wrong, wrong franchise, buddy. Get out of here.
Yeah,
You're no Sean
but
Connery.
speaking of representation, that new Shang-Chi movie, that Marvel movie that's coming out. I don't know if you guys seen
Yeah,
the
I
trailer
have
for
not
that.
seen the
It
trailer.
look yeah, it looks good. I'm like, okay, it looks good. So I'm waiting for that one
See, I gotta,
to
I
come
gotta
to
watch
drop.
that. I gotta watch that
Yeah,
trailer.
it's got
Yeah,
to be
they
also.
released it earlier in the week, but yeah, I watched it. It looks nice.
I liked how there was like, because I heard about it being out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna
Hmm.
wait because I want to do Mortal Kombat first. I want to get all mixed up and stuff, man. Um,
Yeah.
because like I was like, first off, I want to get my actors straight because I'm an ignorant American. So I wanted to take my time, man, and figure out films. But I mean, overall, I would give this, I guess, a B minus going into a C. Really, it'd be a really, okay, let's say C, like a high C, C plus for me
C
on this.
plus.
Yeah, because I think that they rushed it. I think that the set design sucked. Um,
Hmm.
I think that there was some lost opportunities there. It went really fast though.
Yeah, I did.
And that was okay for me because I have ADD, so that helped. But for those who don't and actually want the canon and the little bit of the history, that's like kind of like what Hail Sagan was saying, introductions to the characters,
Hmm. Hmm.
story placement a little bit, and
Yeah, build it.
and
Hmm.
and this Cole guy, I don't. I didn't care for his character either. I thought that he was just like somebody's kid that needed to be picked up to daycare. Um,
Yeah.
I got that, but like Hale Sagan made some interesting points on this earlier because we started talking about it, and he's like, we got to hold back here. We're gonna start talking this whole thing up. But remember what you were saying about what you wanted to see with Cole? Do you remember?
Hmm.
Yeah, because you know what? At the end of the day, I didn't know what I was going to expect with this character, right? I thought, okay, well, this is just temporary. Whoever he is, he's this is
Hmm.
temporary. They were starting to kind of give you hints that, okay, wait, he's connected to Scorpion. Okay, let's see where this goes. And really wanted to see them develop it to basically so that he was going to be more of a vessel for Scorpion to come out. So
Hmm.
I was hoping that he was going to be used for Scorpion to become Scorpion. I was hoping that like his ancestor, the original Scorpion, was going to use him basically as his bloodline to kind of form
Like a passing of the
Scorpion.
torch.
Yeah, and that's really what I was hoping for because I could have easily just said, okay, I like now I get it. Now I see the use of this character. I had no clue that in the end he was just going to be just a new guy, some other guy who had horrible armor, whatever his outfit is that they chose to pick for him. You know, in addition to Scorpion fighting side by side, I'm like, this is just, it was just weak to me. Like that, it just ruined it. And that final scene was great. That was a great fight scene.
Yeah.
And I really wish that in the end it was really just Scorpion versus Sub-Zero, not Scorpion and his freaking
Junior.
grandkid, right? Great grandkid,
Or
you know,
whoever.
versus Sub-Zero. It was just weak. I just really wish
It was.
that.
You know that dialogue that he had. You guys, you remember the dialogue that Scorpion had with Cole? He's just like, you take care of your family, basically, right? He's like, you take care of the bloodline. I got this. That. I mean, they should have done that dialogue earlier and told the kid, take your family, get out of here now that they're unmelted, and scurry off and let me hand this guy's
Right.
ass to him. That's the way that scene should have played out a little bit, just
Right.
to get Cole out of there. But they're still wanting to incorporate Cole, so I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think,
Hey.
Rich? I mean, what do you think of that?
My thing is, if they were gonna bring uh, someone along that was like a blood of his family or whatever, had that bloodline, then it should have been that guy Takeda. And if you guys don't know who Takeda is, I think he was like a disciple of Scorpion, and he was I forgot which Mortal Kombat. I think he's in the newest one. But he had like whips in his arms or whatever, or he had like
Right.
yeah.
See, and here's where I'm bad. I haven't been catching up with a lot of the newer Mortal Kombat. Like I haven't played them, and I haven't been able to catch up on them. So I'm glad you're kind of breaking this down. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And so he was a student of now if people don't know Scorpion's name, I know a lot, everybody knows his real name is Hanzo Asashi. That's his real name. So he had his clan, the Shiri Ryu, I believe that's how you pronounce it, but
Yes.
he was a student of that clan.
Right.
And so if they were going to do something like that, it should have been like a disciple or someone like the next a big time student or whatever in that clan, and just ran with that. If it was going to be like a disciple of Scorpion or something, like a character, if you're going to do it with a character that fans know, instead
Right.
of bringing along some. And the thing that got me was like, they're trying to throw MMA and everything. Like, look, don't get me wrong, I watch UFC. I was watching it last night, but Mortal Kombat, it was more traditional martial arts. And
Right.
a lot of these characters, and they should stick, like in the first movie, that's what it was. It was mainly traditional. The one that was more like a grappler or street fighter was like Sonya when she was fighting Kano
Well,
in that
Right.
movie.
let me give you a devil's advocate on that. Maybe the reason why they put him in that UFC type of thing was to prove that he was in the wrong genre of combat to begin with.
Okay, yeah, I see what yeah, that makes sense.
Meaning, like, he wasn't going to flourish in the UFC type
Yeah.
fighting because he is a martial artist by heart. Maybe that's
And so it took all of this to bring him out, and I see that point. And Raiden was the key to bringing
Bingo.
his true self out.
And that's why
Right.
he ended
You
up
know.
leaving to go to Hollywood to go after
Yeah.
Cage, right? Oops, spoiler alert. But
Yeah, like my thing is this. What irked me is certain characters they shouldn't have killed off so quickly.
yeah. Uh-oh.
Like
Molina?
Goro shouldn't have been killed off. In my opinion,
There you
he shouldn't
go.
have been killed.
That's what Hail Sagan
Especially if
said.
he was going to be killed, at least be like Kung Lao or somebody, not Cole. What the heck? Like that's what made me mad about it.
Hail
Like
Sagan.
he should have been killed off by somebody more powerful. Basically, is what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I get it. In the first movie, Johnny Cage, punched him in the nuts, dipped, and then was able to outsmart him or
Right.
whatever. He wasn't gonna beat him in hand-to-hand combat. He punched him in the nuts, and he dipped off and hid from
Right.
Goro until they got to that outside of that mountain or whatever they were in.
Right.
and he was able to get some good hits and able to make him fall off the cliff.
Right.
You know, so that's how he beat Goro. But he wasn't just going to straight up beat him. You know, so they should have made Goro more dominant.
Yeah.
Without doubt.
Yeah, it should have made him more dominant.
Goro should have picked up that truck the family was in and
Yeah,
literally chucked it across the fucking
something
yard, you
like
know?
he should have been a savage in the movie.
Yes.
And then a thing like, and here's the thing about Sub Zero, if people don't know, like Sub Zero, he becomes Noob Saibot or whatever. Noob Saibot is like
Hmm.
Sub Zero, if people don't know. And I wonder, since Sub Zero was killed in this one, will he come back in the
Fatality.
sequels?
I
That
think
yeah,
I
as
no,
Noob Saibot.
I think it's cool that you brought that question up because I think they
Mm,
have to, right? Because
yeah.
it really, they wanted to start off this franchise with it being centered around Scorpion and Sub-Zero because to this day, anyone who
Mm,
plays the games still loves those
hmm.
two characters, right?
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to. I think they already had plans to.
And
So I
Hmm.
think maybe, you're right. Maybe they're going to bring him back as Noob Saibot
and
Yeah.
maybe
instead.
the reason why, like with Cole, they kept him separate from Scorpion, was because they wanted to be able to I guess, tap that base of that individual character repetitively in the future, and as the franchise
Hmm.
continues, so that way it's still a separate entity from Cole because they don't want to absorb the characters all into one, because that would just piss off fans even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess for me, it was like there's so many characters in the franchise that I mean, if they decided they want to bring in a new character, that's fine, but they really didn't have to. They have so
Right.
many
There
characters
are so many, right?
that they have enough characters to work with. They're good on that. Just like Marvel, you don't need to you got so much material and stuff
Right.
with characters. You don't need to bring in nobody new.
Well,
Like
this
you.
goes back to your point though about the
Mm,
storytelling. It's an easy out to bring in a new character right into a storyline
mm-hmm.
that's already established, so that way they have less. They can explain it to the audience like they are to the character Cole, right? So it's like
Yeah,
we'll make it easy. We'll bring in Junior, and then we'll
yeah.
round this up. We'll bring the audience in. That's one way to keep the audience emotionally entangled in it, because they can't relate yet to characters that have powers, like because you want to be able to absorb the audience into that, I guess involvement, the emotional involvement. And so with Cole, you saw that, but we also saw emotional involvement with Scorpio, Scorpion's
Yeah.
family and all that stuff that happened there. I mean, it's an
Mm,
easy way to bring in the audience though when you have this new character. Well, we'll just bring in this new kid and we'll explain it to him. Like there was a couple like dropped balls as far as like, well, all types of drop balls in that movie, but drop balls in specifically the storytelling. Like when Cole was walking down the hall, and this kind of irked me a little bit. He's walking down the hall, he's looking at the murals, he sees his ancestor score. This is when the fight essentially that
mm-hmm.
started it all, and he sees that the same knife that he remembers from his flashbacks that he's having in the hand of who will be Scorpion in the future. His great whoever grandpa. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't even say, "Hey, wait a minute," or makes a comment. He doesn't do any of that. He just lets it go.
Yeah.
And I personally, if it were a guy or a girl, either way, male or female, you'd be like, "Hey, bro, who the hell's this? I've seen this guy
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. I've seen this knife somewhere. Who is this?" He didn't do that,
Exactly.
and I'm like, that's not a very natural response. I guess Cole's impotent, but like emotionally impotent. He doesn't think very well. And I understand that there was a lot going on, but I mean, if you're just being introduced and it was a very casual atmosphere, because Lou brought him in and he's like, check it out, this is the arena. And he didn't ask about it. They just went straight, towards the back of the temple, where you see like the actual battleground or training ground, whatever you prefer.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, so no question. Okay, no questions. I would have been questioning it, or at least I would have been like, "Hey, guy, who is this?" Even if it was just a question of, "Hey, who's this guy?" He didn't even do that. The movie was so quick to just push forward. There was so many little mini story holes, and I thought that was kind of a weird, non-natural reaction. And I was like, if you want to humanize this guy, you're losing a small opportunity at his curiosity, because obviously the guy is curious, but he's also fearful of it. Like it's a mixed feeling of wanting responsibility but not knowing how to deal or harness it the proper way. So it's like there's a lot of things that make sense after you think about it or sleep on the movie, watch it and think about it. But there's a lot of other crap that, like I said, it's probably a high C for that reason alone. But the storytelling, it's lazy storytelling.
Yeah.
It really is. And I know that it was about violence and to a point and gore, but it wasn't as gory and as violent as I thought it was going
No,
to be.
I thought they were going to go all out with it. But you did bring up before. Now, let me ask you this: was I the only one who thought before Raiden finally explained it? That was I the only one who thought that the baby that uh, Raiden rescued in the beginning movie was
Was Cole?
Cole?
Yes, me too.
Yes. Yep.
And then I had to sit back and he's like, many centuries
Wait a-
ago, I did
I'm like,
this.
wait a minute, no, what the heck?
Because once again, there's no sense of time. So I was like, okay.
Yeah,
And I was like, all right, so the timeline, this has got to be like a great, 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 great grandkid or some shit, right?
yeah.
I guess. And I finally figured that out after Raiden went into an explanation. Raiden was very badass.
I thought at first it was like his son. I thought it was Scorpion's son.
Yeah, I did
Right.
too at first.
Before they explained, and then when he said that it was a girl that he rescued, then I was like, okay, so he's like his great 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 great, grandson or
Right.
something or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, before Raiden finally explained it, I thought I was going crazy where I thought that okay, that's his son or whatever the case was,
And the
because
interesting
they really didn't do a good job of kind of like
explaining that.
explaining that. Yeah.
Yep. And even after Raiden explained it, you're still, if you missed that, you missed the whole section of it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like you really have to be
Right.
watching that film to grab that monologue and be like, okay. Because I really thought that Cole was like his grandson or his son, one or the other.
Hmm.
I mean, for all
Yeah.
I know. But because we're talking over, possibly he said centuries ago, that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, so this is like some serious bloodline shit. Like,
Yeah.
okay, so this is like way down the line, but they decided to show up for like Cole, the UFC
Mm-hmm.
failure, aka I don't know how to fight. So now score. Okay. Like once again,
Yeah. Exactly.
okay, like that's again, if we're talking timelines and they start getting into those timelines, that's where it gets a little more trickier. So they didn't go into much. I agree with you. No explanation. If you miss that, you're screwed. Because then after that, you're like, what the hell's going on? And who is this kid again? Okay, he's related, but who is he?
And then usually in movies like that, if it takes place centuries ago, usually the movie will show a date or something. It'll say
Right.
1400 AD or something or
Nope.
whatever. So you kind of get an idea like, okay, this is like back then. And then after all that goes down with Scorpion and Sub-Zero, if it's gonna fast forward to Cole, it'll say like present day or
Present
whatever.
day.
Yeah, so like it didn't even do that. So that's why I was like, oh, this must be his son or something. Like it it didn't. There was no explanation.
Yeah,
They
I thought the same thing. Where it's like I thought, okay, well, obviously, if we're moving to present day, they're gonna have to touch
Mhm.
on that. So I was just like waiting for it. Like, okay, you know,
Yeah.
he's got to be a descendant, but
Mhm.
how?
Like
It
I
was
said, if they're gonna make another one, man, they got
clean it the hell
yeah,
up.
dude. Because there's been movies that were supposed to have sequels and they just bombed so badly. And the Last Airbender is a perfect example. That was supposed to be like a trilogy,
Yep.
and that first one just bombed so badly. They were like, "Nah, we good." Like, they made the mistake of saying, "Yeah, M. Night got this." Yeah, and I was just like,
Yeah. Yep.
that. So, like I said, if they get another opportunity and chance to make a sequel, they better right their wrongs and get it right. If they gotta get new
Yeah.
writers for it, do that. Involve the creators.
Yeah.
Like, don't just sit there and they're like, "Nah, we're good." And I wonder if it's a thing where they brought them in and they heard the direction they want to go to, and they were like, "Nah, we don't want to be part of this," or they gave them their input and they didn't want to listen, so they're like, "Yeah, leave us out of this thing."
Yeah. Well, they probably just
Yeah, I
lesson
think so.
learned.
I mean, majority of movies that have like the creator of whatever they're basing the movie off of around for source material, they usually do good. Deadpool why Deadpool's so great is because they involve the writers or the creators of those characters, or just with any kind of Marvel product, or any in general. If you're going to the source material and not just going off the rails and deciding to do your own thing and being a rogue, it makes it more easier for that movie to be successful. Look at the last Star Wars movies, for example. They told George Lucas, "Now here's $4 billion. We got this." Now they're going back to him and like, "Yeah, man, can you help us with these next movies whenever we start working on them?" Now, don't get me wrong. Like the Mandalorian, I love the Mandalorian. They
Yeah,
they did a good job with the Mandalorian.
I
Yeah, they
liked
did it
it.
right.
Yeah, they did a real good job with the Mandalorian, and then I guess they're getting ready to start working on the Obi-Wan series. They're starting to film that, so
Yeah,
we'll see how that goes. But yeah, they did a great job with Mandalorian and all that. But my point is, stick with your source material. Don't ignore that mess and think that you could do better than the creators of whatever you're making a movie off of. Go to the source material. Like,
right.
you can't be that conceited or that naive to think that you're going to do a better job without any input. I would want all the input in the world from someone I'm making a movie, whatever it's off of. I want all the input in the world. So,
Well, yeah. And like you were saying, if they would just look at the source material, but at the same time,
mm,
it's like I see what they're trying to do. They're kind of like
mm,
recalibrating the
mm,
timeline a little bit and the storylines, and I'm curious to see where it goes. I'd like to see a
mm,
sequel. I would hope that they stick to the martial arts.
mm,
I think there's a lot of potential there. Um, there was, they had its lost opportunities, but it wasn't as bad by any means that I expected. Like I would watch a sequel. I wouldn't go to a damn
mm.
theater to watch a sequel. Um,
Yeah.
they can kiss my ass, but
It
I
wasn't
enjoyed it.
Mortal Kombat Annihilation bad.
Gee.
Man,
You know what's
you
sad
know,
is I
you know
did
what?
watch that one in the theater.
Yeah, me too. I was amped up to see it. I'm like, yeah, another Mortal Kombat. Yeah, and another thing about that, there's so many editing mistakes in that movie. I'm like, who the heck did
Oh,
y'all hire to do
brutal.
the editing in this movie, man? Like, there was a scene in there, like, okay, one of the characters that I thought they were gonna have fight, but didn't, was Rain, and he was like the purple ninja, and so
Right.
there was a part in there where Shao Kahn hit Rain in the fire because he failed to do something, and so he hit him with that big old sledgehammer, and
Hmm.
Rain fell in the fire. So when there was a scene when Liu Kang, when Liu Kang was fighting the Barakas or whatever, when Katana was in the cage and he went to
Hmm.
go rescue, and he was fighting
Yep.
Baraka. When he was fighting him, he booted one of them into the fire. It showed Rain falling into the fire. I'm like, what the heck? Y'all didn't notice that?
Well, that's
I'm like, come on,
unfortunate.
man. Yeah, that one stuck to me. There were some other ones, but that one I just laugh at it now. I'm like, that's obviously Rain falling into the fire. What the heck, man? So yeah, Mortal Kombat Annihilation was just horrible. I was just like, come on. Even the dude who played, because so I found out that Christopher Lambert, the guy who played the original Raiden,
Hmm.
he didn't go into the second one because he told him like scheduling conflict and all that. He later came out and said, "Yeah, that script was bad, so I didn't want to be a part of it."
You know it's bad
he, was,
when. You know it's bad
he was
when.
like, he looked at it. He was like, "No, I'm good."
This is the guy
See,
from
I
So,
heard, and
Highlander.
at that time they had said that this is of course a long time ago. They were trying to pawn it off that he was demanding too much money.
mm-hmm,
And I was like, well, maybe he was because it was that bad of a script. Like, dude, if you
mm-hmm,
really want me in here, like, this is
mm-hmm,
probably like a career ender if I do this.
mm-hmm.
So you better pay me well.
Yeah, like that's how you know it's bad. You're like, "No, I'm cool. I'm good on coming back." And then they killed Johnny Cage at the beginning of the movie. I'm like, dang,
Right,
man, they even
right, yeah.
snapped his neck and was done with him. I'm like, okay,
God, man.
okay.
There's one thing I will say that I hope that we do see in any sequel,
Mm-hmm,
and this is one thing that I liked about the first one that we saw nothing of in
mm-hmm.
this one. Right?
Yeah.
They actually had in the first one. they actually had a tournament. They actually had
Mm-hmm.
scenes where they were having matches.
Exactly.
That was what I was hoping would appear at least a couple of times. But in this film, from the very beginning, they basically said, "No, screw this tournament crap. We're just gonna kill, the opponents." Like
Yeah,
it was
They're
it was like
just
a it
platforming
was
it.
like a super it was like a superhero team up movie. Like I said, it was like a Avengers. They're trying to make it like the Avengers, like and like they just went away from the source material. I understand they're trying to do something new, but like there was not as many fights as I thought it was going to be. And then the
no,
fights that were, they weren't even really good.
right.
Like I said, Scorpion and Sub Zero was the fights that I enjoyed. But
Right.
like like the fight with Reptile, that I don't even want to talk about that mess. The fight with Goro, I don't even want to talk about that. And then Cabal, like Cabal was cold, but like that was a person. Like I said, Cabal, Goro, Melina, they shouldn't have died.
Right.
They should have kept them around. But
Melina definitely should not have died. Not
yeah,
that easy. Like, how did she die? Sonya hit her with her newly acquired rings.
ring power that.
Oh my gosh! It
And
just
then
came out of
people,
nowhere somehow. It
yeah,
just
people know what we're talking about. If you've played Mortal Kombat, you know exactly
Right.
what we're talking about. But yeah, she developed that after killing Kano. Um,
I think
and
really.
I think
yeah,
this is all platforming because at the end of the film, basically they alluded to, well, we got to look for more, fighters basically to, go against blah 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 blah, and they have to go recruiting, and I think that's where we're going to start seeing more of the combat. Like there's something to this where they're going to develop something where they'll have a form of tournaments to find their fighters. And I think that would be awesome. Like if that's included in the sequel,
I will welcome that.
I think that's what they're
they didn't
platforming.
even like tease Shao Kahn.
No, they
Like he
No, I
wasn't
know.
even like there was no like mention of Shao Kahn. I don't believe was there
There was, but
like a
if I
brief.
remember correctly, like they were supposed to. Like I remember seeing little teasers of like
Yeah,
scenes with him, and yeah, he didn't appear in this film at all, did he?
yeah. The actor who played Cole Young, he said there was a lot of fight scenes cut out. I'm like, why? He said, yeah, there was a lot of fight scenes that was cut out of the movie. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, what did they cut out, man? Like, why? Why'd y'all do this? You want to just
Yeah.
choke? I want to punch Warner Brothers, like, you stupid pieces of shit. Like, man, like, it's just, it.
So
Like I said,
hopefully then. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, I'm a go ahead and give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that part two or part three or whatever is gonna because I believe the dude who played Sub Zero, he said he was signed on for like 3 or 4 movies or something like that. So hopefully they get it right in the sequel. So I'll give them, like I said, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt
Right.
and say, okay, hey, we know where we messed up at. Let's correct this, and for the second one, we're gonna go all out and make it a lot better. And hopefully they do that because usually when it comes to movies, usually the first one's great and then the sequel is like or
yeah.
whatever. Depends on the movie. But this one, it's like the movie's like
Well,
and hopefully the sequel's better.
it's like I was looking just to see. Basically, I knew there was Easter eggs of Shao Kahn,
Mm-hmm.
but there wasn't really any. There nothing was mentioned of him technically.
See, yeah.
But it says here that obviously Shang Zun is the only first villain our heroes face. He's not the only villain. Obviously, Shang is,
Mm-hmm.
but he is working for the outworld ruler Shao Kahn, who's the Emperor Palpatine to Shang Tsung's
Mm-hmm.
Darth Vader. So Shao Kahn isn't even mentioned in the new movie. He's only seen in a mural and in a statue form. So there's some
Mm-hmm.
flexibility in how they can implement him. Beyond that, he's not in the film. They don't talk about him at all. I don't remember hearing anything about him whatsoever, unless there was a very small, vague comment talking about the,
Yeah, I
outworld
think it
ruler.
was. I think it
I think
was
that was
from
it.
Shang Tsung's character. Like
Yeah.
it
It
was
was
just
very vague though,
a quick yes.
but he didn't name him, so it was kind of like, oh, the guy, the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
Mm,
but that was
yeah.
it. Didn't hear his name once. Obviously, there's going to be Easter eggs throughout the entire film, just because people love that crap. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but in the end, though, it's obviously fan service. The film was for fans. Obviously, it's missing a lot of loopholes. Some people are going to be unhappy. I was fine with it, actually. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, because I was expecting to be giving it a rating right now around a D minus or an F, and it's more of a strong C. And that's pretty good for
Mm-hmm.
me, because I'm, you know, I don't know, ADD, man. You know how I am. I get pissed off at Marvel films. I stop watching them. I'm like, I don't need this shit.
Oh, come on! Don't do them like that.
Oh, man, they promise me the
uh,
world. They don't even bring me flowers. You know?
oh, come on.
Nah, nah. I wanna.
Speaking of, since we didn't get to do anything on Godzilla versus Kong. What did you guys give
Oh,
as far as a rating on Godzilla versus Kong?
oh man. Hail Sagan, what do you think? I'll let you go because I have a big ass mouth.
You know what? I liked it definitely way better than the
Yeah,
last one. It was good. It was good. There was a
yeah, they
lot
did it.
that they did right
Yeah,
in this film. You know what? That one, I think I'm gonna have to give it. I'll give it a B.
yeah,
B
yeah.
two,
Yeah,
almost a B plus, like B.
Yeah,
B.
I'm
Yeah,
at that. They did a good job with it.
yeah,
Hmm.
Because when it comes to like monster films, it's either a hit or a miss. Like Pacific Rim, the first one was cool. The second one, it was like, eh.
Hmm.
But like with the whole monster verse, what they've done with Godzilla, they've done a good job so far. They've done
Right.
a good job.
Right.
Even if King of the Monsters, I liked it. I liked this one better.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
even with King of the Monsters, they still did their thing, and for people like me who's been a Godzilla fan since I was a kid, my mom was a huge fan, so I used to watch. My mom had movies. I used to watch it with my mom, and when it would come on the weekend, I'd sit there and watch them. So, like, I followed Godzilla for a long time, and they've done a good job with it so far.
yeah,
Um, and they brought in monsters that people recognize, like King Ghidorah. You've seen
Yes. Yes.
Rodan. You've seen Mothra. Even
Yep.
even Mega Godzilla. And I'll tell you what. At first, I thought they were going to go the route as the original movie. In the original movie, after Godzilla got his butt whooped the first time or whatever, Mega Godzilla had on Godzilla's skin.
Right.
And so there was a scene in there. I forgot the name of that monster, but he was always crawling on his knees, and he had a big old shell on his back.
yeah.
And he was like Godzilla's friend or his buddy or whatever. And he thought it was Godzilla. Mega Godzilla beat him up and broke his jaw and all that, and sent him running home crying. But I thought they were kind of going to go about that route because they were talking about how like Godzilla all of a sudden was attacking cities. I thought it was going to be Mega Godzilla that was doing it under the disguise of Godzilla. But no, it was actually because Godzilla sensed something, and it was probably King Ghidorah. He was still sensing that he was going to those areas where he was sensing and
Oh, I
attacking.
see.
And it wasn't even
Yep.
like he had beef with King Kong. It's just that
Right.
he sensed something, and the girls, like, speaking of which, my girls were mad at me because they were all rooting for King Kong, and I was just like, yeah, Godzilla gave him that work. And
Yep.
you bad when you blow a hole all the way down to Middle Earth to give someone a shortcut. Like, you ain't even got to do all here. Let me give you a shortcut. Come pull up.
Right.
Yep.
He
Yep.
gave King Kong a shortcut to come see him. That's how you know you bad. But
Yeah. That's
yeah, they it was more of him sensing something, and Godzilla being a territorial
yeah.
kind of
That's
monster.
what it was, right? That's
Right.
what it
Anything
was.
he senses, like marking in his territory, he's gonna pull up and be like, "What's up?"
Right.
So, in all fairness, though, and how karma works, King Kong did get to watch Godzilla get his ass beat by Mega Godzilla for a while before he jumped in.
Yep.
And if it
It's
wasn't
true.
if it wasn't for that girl, he probably would have been like, "No, I'm not helping him. He
Mhm.
almost killed me."
Yeah.
Because
Right.
Mega Godzilla was beating his ass. I was like, "Dang, he was not playing around."
I
And
think
so yeah, they
there was a lot of memorable like fight scenes in that film.
mm,
You know,
yeah.
that's what I
Yeah.
liked about it. I mean, because I had watched the other Godzilla movies, I was like, oh God, you know, I don't care about the
Mm,
people. Um,
Yeah, they
I don't.
minimized the drama in this film,
hmm
which is what I wanted. Like, because the
Yeah,
Yeah.
last one just had way too much of
It's
that
way too much.
family,
Yeah.
way too
I
much
Yeah.
crying, way too much just family, people
hmm
involved. Like, just
no.
we don't need this.
Yeah, like I need to go back because like the originals had that, you know, where you had a little bit, but it wasn't
Yep.
like, you know, oh, drama, and then you got what 10 seconds of a monster fight, you know, that because that's the way
Yeah.
it felt, and I just had no aspiration or concern or care about these people, and I still don't. And
hmm
this was so much better. I loved the battleship scene. That was probably the
hmm
best
That
fight
was
in that.
great.
I mean,
That
I know
was
there was a lot
great.
of good fights, but that fight was
it
so
was
well
more
done.
fast paced. This one was like more straight to the point.
Yeah.
This time around. So yeah, I really liked how they did it.
Oh man, I loved it. I was like, oh man, because I was supposed to watch with the fam here, and
hmm
I snuck in and I watched some of it. And I did.
Yes.
I don't
Like,
care.
sorry about that.
Yeah, I couldn't help it, and I ended up watching it, and I was like, oh, this is so much better already. Okay, I can sign up for this. There was some like stupid things like I don't care about his daughter. I think I get it. It was nice to see like what like the whole like you know, the Mecha Godzilla creation, what was involved in
hmm
it. That was interesting. I was like, okay, that's cool, but I don't care about this kid, and I don't care about
hmm
these people. I just want more Godzilla, and I want more fighting, and that we did get a hell of a lot more in this one. I liked it. I was
Yep.
actually
hmm
happy with it, and I look forward to seeing a sequel of it. And I liked Kong. I liked. Okay, the sign language thing, that was okay.
Yeah.
I was good with
Yeah.
that. I was totally
Yeah.
fine with some Jane Goodall weird shit. You know, like that's fine. Like let's do that. You know, that makes
There's a
sense.
couple of monsters that have like Mothra in the original. They had like the little twin. Wasn't it like the little
Yes.
twins that was
Yep.
singing
Yes, so
that
I
for
was
Yep.
just
Mothra?
talking about those two
And
twins.
then there was another one. His name was King Caesar, and he
Yep.
was like he had something
He
similar
helped
like
beat
that.
Mecha Godzilla. Yeah, he
Yeah.
teamed up with Godzilla. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, yep. They're so far so good, and I know like because people are wondering how come there wasn't a end credit scene of that, and they were saying like because they were kind of leaving it up to the fans to if it's big enough they're gonna make another one. It so far it's doing good. I think it's like 400. It's made 400 million worldwide so far.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So they got to make another one now. They're like,
yeah,
all
they're
right,
going
y'all
to.
did it. So they were kind of like, if it flops, then we're done. If it doesn't flop, then we're gonna make more.
Oh, they're gonna
And I'm
man.
thinking if they do make another one, they gotta do Space Godzilla. Godzilla versus Space Godzilla.
That probably
They
will
gotta bring
be.
Space Godzilla in, man.
Honestly, right, right. I
Gotta
think
do
they'll
it.
probably go that route.
I'm like, who else is gonna mess with him right now besides King Ghidorah was like the big bad guy,
Yeah,
Right.
it's true.
and so after that, like you got to bring in Space Godzilla.
Or King Caesar.
Yeah. Well, King Caesar's like a protector. He's like a good guy,
Yeah, but
He,
bring him in anyway for comic relief, because
well, it could be like the ultimate team up, like
yes, yeah,
Godzilla, Kong, King Caesar, whoever else
Space Godzilla,
goes
You know
and
what?
going up against Space Godzilla.
I
badass.
think honestly, I'd be cool with that. I would actually be okay with Space Godzilla, and I think if they bring in Jet Jaguar to team up with Godzilla, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
Yeah,
I'm
there we
there.
go.
I
There
will
we
be
go.
there.
Oh my god.
That would be awesome, man. Like, yeah. So hopefully they, whenever they decide to make another one, they go in the direction of Space Godzilla.
Yeah.
That would make my day. I'd be like, all right, I could die a happy man now.
I
I
want
seen
to
Space
see it.
Godzilla do his thing.
I just want to see how they roll this out. If they did that
Yeah.
direction, it would be funny. Like to me, I really want to just see what that looks like. You know what I mean? 'Cause that's going to be entertainment right there.
Oh,
Yep.
I would
Oh
just,
yeah.
if
That's
they
next
do it, I
level
would
right
just
there.
like crack up just seeing it. I would just crack up, not because it's horrible or anything, but I'm actually seeing it. I would just sit there and crack up.
Oh
It'll be
yeah,
funny.
I think that'd be gold, honestly. Because in the end, if they
Yeah.
can write it well, like you know what I mean. Like
hmm
this, they wrote decently. It was fine. I loved the directing. and the
Mhm.
cinematography. There were some great shot scenes
Oh
in
yeah.
that movie. Like there were
Dude, and the
so many.
fact that they incorporated Hollow Earth
Yes.
That was
I'm
beautiful.
freaking
like, man, that is cold. I love that, man.
Oh man,
That
that was
was I
great.
love that.
It was
I love
great
that.
because they were actually following the legends, and it was like,
Mhm.
right.
okay, there you go, and they added a little spin on it, but nothing like out, nothing that's off the rails where we get roll our eyes, but enough where we're like, you
Mhm.
know what, who the hell knows? But
Yeah.
it's all they really did a good job. Like I was telling, because that was the thing. Hail Sagan was like, well, is it going to be one of those things where they're going to have to explain, like, we're these, like we're, Kong is from Origins. I'm like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
that's answered in the first, I would say, 5 minutes, just based
Mhm.
on the credits. Like whoever did the credits for that film, you know what I mean, doing the
Yeah.
beginning, like the intro, title, and all of
The
that,
intro,
Yeah.
yeah.
beautifully
Yeah.
done.
Yep.
It was awesome. I was like, this is great. Like whoever did this gets a cookie. And and it does the explanation of like, origins, basically a little bit about
mhm.
Kong and even Godzilla a little bit. They're tapping into all these different surfaces, but mostly about Kong and the direction of which they're going in. I loved it. I thought it was really well done there, and the film generally, I liked it a lot. I don't know. I went in with the King of All Monsters feeling in my heart, which was mixed at best and irritated because I
Mhm.
was like, if this is about humans, I'm gonna be hella mad. I like the
Mhm.
fact. I'll be honest with you. I like the fact with that scene with you have you got Mecha Godzilla, you got Godzilla, and you got Kong. The last segment there in Hong Kong when they're beating the hell out of the city. They had to
Mhm.
remind us there were people in the city by showing the subway with people running to get
Yeah.
away.
Right.
And I was like, thank
Yeah.
you. That's the kind of monster movie I want. I want to be reminded there's human life.
Yes. Yes. Let them know like this ain't no game.
Right? There are people that people are
Yeah.
dying. This is like a 9/11 for Hong Kong. That's what you're
Yeah,
watching.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, they did a good job, and the way they brought about Mega Godzilla was because I was wondering if at the end of King of Monsters, um the end credits where they still had a head of King Ghidorah that they
Mhm.
had recovered. I was wondering, I didn't know what they were gonna go, what route they were gonna go with that. Like, are they gonna make their own version of King Ghidorah, or
Right.
what are
Mm,
they gonna do with that? Are they gonna do some gene splicing
right.
or something with it? I didn't know what direction where they're gonna go, and then you kind of see that even though it was a skull, it still was telepathic or whatever. It still
Right.
had the like psychic powers or whatever, um, or telekinesis or whatever you want to call it. With that skull, so they were able. That one dude that was sitting in there was able to control um, Mega Godzilla until it
Right.
decided
Right.
to
Take it
take
over.
over itself. Yeah,
That was really well done. I liked that. I
yeah,
liked all of that. I was like, what the hell? The giant skull? I'm like, what the? Because even all of us were
yeah,
like, what is this? You know?
hmm
But then it all came together. So then it was like, okay,
yeah.
this makes sense. It was fine then. I was like, okay, I'm fine. Everything was fine. I don't care about the kids. Yeah, just get out of the way, kids. And
Did you give it a score yet?
I did. I gave it a strong. I don't know. For me, it was a very strong B plus.
B plus. Okay, so we're all B's for us. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
We got off the Mortal Kombat discussion, but these films have been like, back to back. It feels like it's nice to. I like watching it at home. I hate going to the theater. So yeah, if they want me watching, they're not gonna have it in a damn theater.
Like, yeah, like this is cool. Like certain movies, I gotta see if it's like a big time movie. Like I've been dying to see. I'll go like before all this went down. Like all the Marvel movies and everything. I was sitting right there in the theater. There's certain movies I would wait for it to come out
Right.
on Blu-ray or whatever. But there was movies like I gotta go see this in the theater, or whatever. But
And the truth is, these are pretty. I mean, these would have been considered
yeah,
blockbuster movies, like
yeah,
the Godzilla, Kong, and then this. I mean, this. I think that they're trying to feel out their audiences too to see how they react or respond, and the direction of Hollywood is getting away from movie theaters, so they're not going to be able to gouge like they've been gouging in, like, I don't know, the
mm-mm,
last 10 to 20 years. They're going to have to move it around, and I think if anything, them going back to theaters is not going to reflect well on the box office.
mm-mm.
I don't think that it's going to make much of a change. They're probably going to lose money if they keep it strictly to the box office, um,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So I mean, I don't think that that's a wise decision. I think they know this, but there's so much money invested in these movie theaters. It's very far from what it used to be like anyway prior to COVID. That now this
Hmm.
is we're seeing a lot of weaknesses in the entertainment industry, and I think that's why you see somebody moving to pod and streaming and all this crap. I don't really care to go to any live shows right now. I have no inclination and no desire. Some people
Hmm.
do. That's fine, but when we're still in the middle of a pandemic,
It's
you
certain
know?
movies. Yeah, it's certain movies like, for example, Black Widow got pushed back and it's finally getting ready to come out this year. And so at first they were going to be like, they were saying, okay, it's going to be strictly in the theater.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where they're like, okay, we're going to put it on Disney Plus, but it's going to be the premium, like how they did with Mulan,
Yeah.
where they did,
Video on
you know,
demand.
you pay to, yeah, you pay for it through Disney Plus. So they're going that route. I don't know how. I know Warner Brothers right now is really the main one that's doing that with the movies, where you know watch it on HBO Max, and then if you want to go to the theater, you can watch it there too. Um, but they got a good list of movies out, coming out this year.
Yeah.
Still a good list of movies that are um, going to be coming out that will be on HBO Max.
Yeah,
So there's
what's the
still.
next one? You know?
Uh, that's a good question. Let me look.
Well, let's look at the
Mad
chart.
Squirrel. Yeah, Squirrel might find it before me, but let me look.
Okay, I found a list as soon as it
Yeah, there.
loads.
See, look how quick that was.
Um, okay, so let's see, that was the 29th. Let me scrolly. Tom and Jerry, the movie sucked. Just thought I'd point that out. I don't even know why I sat through that. I don't
Not
know.
gonna do it.
Oh
Not
my
gonna do
Hmm.
it.
God, why did I do that? Yeah, there's no. I don't understand anything. I don't understand why I watched that. I don't. Sometimes you just shouldn't watch shit. Um, so on June 4th
Oh
of
yeah, Space Jam's coming out.
yep,
Space Jam 2.
June 4th is The
Uh,
Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do
Oh, The
It.
Devil Made Me Do It. Yeah, I just seen that trailer
um,
for it.
Some weird ass In the Heights movie. Um,
Hmm.
there's it looks like a dance party in the streets representing what life used to look like. Space Jam: A New Legacy is on July 16th.
Hmm.
LeBron James is in it and Bugs
Oh yeah,
Bunny.
the Suicide Squad, the new Suicide Squad
Yeah,
movie.
August 6th.
uh, I was gonna say, wait, do we not have one, you know,
No, it's gonna
superhero
be
movie at all?
it'll be
Okay.
the Suicide Squad August 6th. James Gunn presents the 10th DCEU movie. It's a soft reboot and standalone sequel to the critically panned but financially successful Suicide Squad. And yeah, I guess it was about as John Cena's in it. What?
Hmm. Yeah, he's in it. Yep.
I can't even deal with life. Okay, so the next one, the next one is Many Saints of Newmark on September 24th.
And that's the Sopranos prequel when Tony Soprano was young, when he was like a teenager or whatever. It
Yes.
basically showing what happened or the events that led up to him becoming who he is. So yeah, that's
Becoming
what
the
that one is.
boss. Nice.
Yeah.
Before he became the big man, the big man.
Yeah.
Um, Geez, let me go here. Then we have Dune, which I look forward to. Dune on
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
October
Yeah.
1st is when that comes out. That's pretty awesome. Um, Next one is King Richard on November 19th with Will Smith, Dylan McDermott. It's a drama about a tennis.
Oh,
It's about
okay.
the
About
father.
Serena and Venus.
Yeah, their dad, the father.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about
Oh, Matrix 4.
yes, The
That
Matrix
comes
4,
out.
That's
December.
coming out this year?
Yes, December
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
22nd is coming out, The Matrix 4. So it was actually pushed back several months from its original scheduled spring 2021 launch. The fourth installment of the iconic sci-fi franchise sees Keanu Reeves and Carrie Ann Moss return to the action-packed alternative reality. First were introduced, blah, 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 90s, nobody cares. Okay. There's a lot of movies that don't have their release dates out. Mortal Kombat, they were still determining it, but here we are now because they finally decided on April, being the month. Malignant is another film that'll be out. That doesn't have anybody in here that I care about. The next one is Those Who Wish Me Dead. That's another movie that nobody cares about. We'll move on. That one has a lot of people in it, but it's a neon western action film, and centered on a murder witness pursued against the backdrop of a raging forest fire It's based on a novel by the same name with Angelina Jolie, Nicholas Hoult, Tyler Perry, John Berthnell, and Aidan Gillen. And then last one is Cry Macho with Clint Eastwood. He directs and stars in this neo-western drama. They're trying to bring back westerns. Oh my! So that's that. So that's the list for this year. That's the list.
Okay. So I think for me, Space Jam, I'm not really, I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not like, oh, I got to watch Space Jam.
Right.
The Conjuring, I like all the Conjuring movies, so I'll
Yeah,
definitely be watching that
I'll
one.
watch that one.
The Suicide Squad, I'll watch. Many Saints of Newark, because huge Sopranos fan.
Mhm.
Dune, of course,
Yeah.
and Matrix 4.
Yeah. It's a nice lineup. I mean,
Yeah,
honestly, I mean that's a pretty good,
yeah,
strong lineup for, even though people are, I mean that's pretty strong. HBO is going to come out on this, and I think they're going to
yeah.
come out on top. I think that they're going to do some interesting moves with this, and I think they're testing audiences to see, okay, do we get more subscribers this way? Do we keep consistent subscribers? And I think the answer is yes. So far, so
Mm-hmm.
good.
Hmm.
Yep, I agree.
So their momentum is by far surpassed like Netflix and Amazon Prime and their crap, and I think HBO Max is actually taking over streaming.
Yeah, yeah. Well, for so long,
Right
you
now it
know,
is.
you had
Yep.
Netflix and Hulu and all that, and now here comes HBO Max, and it's just like, okay, you know. And I know Netflix is doing something this year where they're like releasing like 70 movies or something like that. It was like a new movie each week or something,
Yeah.
all year. But let's be real, majority of those movies ain't nobody watching. Like,
Nope. Right.
nobody
I'm
watching
like,
a movie.
does it really count if it's crap?
Yeah, you're just putting out movies just to put them out. Like nobody's gonna watch the majority of those movies. So
I mean,
whatever.
I'm looking at Netflix's release list, and it's varied, and um, there's not a lot of. Let's see, I'm springing forward here through the months, and there hasn't been any. I mean, really anything on here that's gotten any kind of buzz, except
Hmm.
for a couple of things. But most of these are just non-hits. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like these are just absolute crap.
there's a couple of movies. There's a movie that's gonna have The Rock in it. There's a movie that's gonna have. It's a movie with The Rock and Ryan Reynolds, and I think the chick who Gal Gadot, the chick who played Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
Hmm.
There's that they're doing, and there's another one. I can't think of it right now, but that's the one off the top of my head I know that they're coming
Um,
out with.
in the ones that let's see here. Throughout 2021, Netflix will become the home to films like Zack Snyder's long-awaited zombie movie, Army of the Dead.
Oh yeah, that
Um,
one too. Yep.
David Bautista is led the
Yeah.
action thriller, blah blah blah. Because we can never get enough of zombie films. And then the other one is Del Toro's film, and it's a adaptation of the classic Italian fairy tale Pinocchio, where he's doing it over with this like the casting on that is amazing. Like that's going to be
Hmm.
really good. I think that one's already out. That we just talked about that Hail Sagan, the film that he has
Hmm.
coming out. Damn, what the hell's the name of it? But there's the casting on it is excellent on that film. But
Yeah, they come out with some hit. Like The Irishman was a good movie.
oh yeah, I
Like I
liked
love
it.
The Irishman. Yeah, that they did a good job with that one.
Yeah,
So yeah, certain movies they come out with are actually good.
yeah. I'm up for that. Like that was fine.
Hmm.
I think that was a good film. It was long.
Oh
My
yeah,
God,
yeah.
I had to have a
But
snack.
it was a long film, but it wasn't like, oh man, why is it? Like I actually sat here and just watched all of it without no issues. Like of course I gotta go to the bathroom or something, but like it was like the whole movie. It wasn't like there was a part in there where it was just like, oh man, come on. Like it was worth the whole 3 hours.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Yeah,
And like
yeah,
some of the scene I was shot. It like kind of caught me off guard.
hmm,
With like the ending per se.
yeah, yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
whoa, dude, that was hello. 'Cause, like I wasn't expecting that. I was like, well, shiver me timbers. That's the end of that.
Hmm.
But the movie was really good. I think the acting was excellent, and it was nice to
Oh
see.
yeah.
It was really nice to see Joe Pesci again. I do think that
Yes,
you know,
yes.
And then the
because he
CGI,
was basically like retired from
Yep.
movies, and
yeah,
they got him out. They convinced him to get to hop on this one.
it was always nice to see him. I'm like, it's good to see you. It's good to see you, Joe. But the CGI aging thing, that kind of threw me off a little. That threw me off. That was not what I was expecting at first. I got over it, but it took a little while. Like, I don't know, about an hour or two. So probably about hour three, I was okay with it. That's terrible. But the CGI aging was a little like it did off put me a little bit. But I got
Hmm.
over it. You get into the actual like storyline, and
Yeah.
it's a long movie, but it's once again Martin Scorsese can get away with that because he knows
Hmm.
how to do the films well. That's just
Yeah.
you know
It's just how he does. He does his thing.
you
Got to
know
give him his props.
some directors you give them an hour and they can't explain shit. So I mean, you know what I mean? You can give somebody
So true.
like
Hmm.
God help me. But anyway, I'm glad that we all got together to talk about Mortal Kombat. I know that we touched on a bunch of other movies that have come out. We have to do this more regularly on different films.
Yeah.
You know.
We just have to rant. We have to vent and get some of our frustrations with
Sometimes.
that movie
Yep.
out.
Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
glad that we're able to do that because,
Like
yeah.
And you do wonder, right? Because it's like when something like this comes out, you don't know how to feel at first. You
Hmm.
actually you do feel like okay, you know something's not right,
Well, I
but
sat down and watched it again just to make sure I wasn't crazy. Like, make sure like I felt the same way
hmm
after watching it, and I did. So.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, because I just watched it. What the hell? Last night? No, today.
Mm,
Today,
mm,
today. Sorry, I had to think about when I watched it. That's how bad my memory is. But um, it wasn't bad. I didn't walk away like, oh, this was a horrible waste of time. I didn't feel
mhm,
that way. So I'm looking forward to the sequel. If I don't like the
mhm.
first film, I'm very likely not going to watch the second, and I'm willing to watch the second. So that's good. I mean,
There we go.
if the movement of Hollywood is doing the streaming at home and making better films for us to watch from home as opposed to going to a theater, I would be all for that. As opposed to wasting my
Hmm.
time and sitting through a Star Wars film that should have been burned at the stake. What was it? You know, because that's the last movie I saw in a movie theater, honestly. Because
uh,
I just don't care. I just don't care. They gotta sell me to watch it. So that means I think they have to put forth more effort, in a sense, if they want their
yeah.
audiences now. And I think they
Uh,
should.
that's true.
Instead of paying all these people all this money, maybe they should put it into their writers.
exactly.
Man. Anyway.
There we go.
All right. Well, you want to wrap it
Yeah.
up, Rich, and then
Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad you guys could hop on. You know what? If people don't know, Mad Squirrel, you want to drop some plugs in?
oh yeah, I'm Mad Squirrel. You can find me on my channel, Mad Squirrel Conversation. I'm on Twitter at SGT Mad Squirrel. You can find me there. SGT means nothing. Some gal from Texas, I guess. Um,
I
but
was always wondering what that meant.
I originally it was an abbreviation because I couldn't get Mad Squirrel on Twitter, so I just put Sergeant Mad Squirrel, and everyone thinks I was in the military, which I was not. Disclosure, unless you count the Squirrel
Mhm.
Army. But other than that, that's all fantasy. But yeah, you can find me there. I'm on live streams on General Zod's Fandom Zone with Mr.
Mhm.
Zod on there. You can find me on Twitter, popping around different channels. I haven't put any new content up. I'm helping Rich tonight with this because we were talking about Mortal Kombat, wanted to do a movie review, so this is the best way to do it because
Exactly.
Big Rich is still getting his stuff set up, and
Mhm.
hopefully there'll be future live streams of just chatty. But then, yeah, that's it.
Exactly.
That's it for me, really.
All right, here we go. And of course, we have the not the late great, the great Hail
Oh,
Sagan.
oh my.
I hope not late. If by
Snuff.
late you mean late night, okay, but
Oh
no other
The
man.
late,
reason, sir.
great. Oh
Hey, it's
my.
late. Well, it is late at night. So there we go. The late night great Hail Sagan. There we go.
There we go.
Rip.
Nice, nice, nice. And I live
Well,
in the underground, so you won't find me anywhere on social media.
there you go. But it was still a pleasure for you to join us. So again, appreciate it.
Thanks
Appreciate
for
everybody
having
who
me.
tunes in.
Yeah.
Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and we'll be back again. Appreciate
Have a good night, day, or whatever.
it.